Bet you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear overnight, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, Friday, October 9th. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. It is Friday, which means it is Freewheeling Friday. So I am Lucy Goose, not in a suit today, and that's the way it's going to be. All right. Oh, don't do that. I'm getting too old to care about my birthday. Yeah, thank you for the birthday wishes. You get to a certain age, you don't care anymore. You know. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But, it is what it is. So, yeah, I mean, it's always nice. I will say this, though. This is the first birthday since we are in North Carolina right now. This is the first birthday where I felt the cool breeze of fall, which always reminded me of a revival. And I miss that in Florida a lot. So I can't wait to go pumpkin picking tomorrow with the family and maze running. That will be fun. And while I let the Keystone State Battleground poll roll. Because last time we polled Pennsylvania, which was for the Epoch Times. We've polled it twice so far this year. And the first one was about even. And then the second one was, I would have given it to Trump a little bit. And then the second one was like a 0.6. For the Epoch Times, for those who don't know, and when we polled the 6 battleground states in the Rust Belt, which was Iowa, Ohio, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, it was about Trump 0.6. Now we see polls, other public polls, clearly moving toward Biden in Pennsylvania. We shall see. We shall see. All right, that's all I have to say, because you do this as long as I have, and you see as many misses as I have, and you tend not to just not trust anybody anymore, and that's really sad. But that's where I'm at. So I don't know. We'll find out. It's too early to discern anything, and I'd love to tell you guys. I really would. But all I can tell you is that in 2016, it was very difficult to keep, the numbers that we had. And in Pennsylvania, the final was Trump 0.7 And that broke down to 48.4% to 47.8%, which we, of course, rounded up to Trump +1. With the exception of Trafalgar, I think that was it. And we were staring at Clinton +12s, Clinton +6s, Clinton +4s, and it was tough. It was tough. Yeah, I'm looking at some of these, look, voter registration is one indicator. It is one indicator. And I am starting to look at, now, for instance, the independents in Pennsylvania. There are not enough independents in Pennsylvania anymore to shift margins like that. Even 20% may be a little bit high at this point, which we see in the exit polls. In Pennsylvania, when we do modeling, the entire voter file, which I've showed you, and I'll show you again if you'd like, the entire modeling basically shows anywhere from 13 to 18 tops. So even if Biden was winning independents by some of the margins we're seeing, the Monmouth poll, for instance, it would really be tough for Biden to win by double digits in Pennsylvania. As we went yesterday through the, polls, folks, are also just one predictive indicator, and they happen to be one of the least predictive. There are other indicators. When polling misses happen, there are others that almost never fail us. Okay. But this is a +8, map for Pennsylvania. That is Barack Obama's election win over McCain. And you can clearly see where George Bush reddened out in 2004 in the T. McCain lost some of those margins in some of those areas. All right. In the eastern part of the state, keep a very close eye on. You have Lackawanna and Luzerne. Luzerne is a little bit bluer a little bit less blue next to Lackawanna in the northeast. You can see it there. And then that obviously stayed kind of dark blue as Mitt Romney barely made a dent there. But then he did carry Chester in the southeast, which you see red, light red. Trump lost Chester. All right. But he flipped other counties like Luzerne and Erie and other places. The polling seems to suggest that there's going to be a shift in rural areas to Biden. It's hard to find out how Greene County goes from being 68.8% for Donald Trump to being Biden 2-1 in the New York Times poll. That's hard to account for that. Why? Because there aren't that many independents in Greene County. There just aren't. That county has shifted significantly in voter registration. And a lot of that has come actually from independents just shifting to being Republicans. All right. Cambria County was 20 points Democrat, which Donald Trump carried, by the way. It was 20 points Democrat in 2016. It is now a couple of thousand plus Republican. So, some of this stuff just doesn't jive. And I can't wait while we're going off and doing our pumpkin picking extravaganza. We will let it roll because last two times we did poll it, we absolutely needed Saturday to fill in some areas and some quotas that we just couldn't hit. Then also, by the way, we are almost to Arizona already. You guys have really been funding like crazy the public polling project. And I want to give you an update before we're done here. I'd give you one, now, but it'll change before we get out of this show. I'm not even kidding. So towards Arizona. All right. It was like a couple little bit shy in Florida, but we covered that. We don't care if it's a little shy like that. Pennsylvania made the mark. So about $1,000 was put toward Arizona because you guys overfunded Pennsylvania, which is great. So, and now there's it looks like we're like, I don't know, around, I have to do the numbers, but probably around like 1,500 shy for Arizona. So this weekend, while I'm letting it roll, maybe Sunday we'll put together the questionnaire for Arizona and just get ready to do it. Because at this rate, you're definitely going to hit Arizona too. All right. So that would be really, and some of those other smaller states that are down on the line, they don't cost that much at all. All right. So if it keeps going like this, we may hit Maine or New Hampshire. What came in third? Let's take a look. What came in third? What was after Arizona? It was close. Like those are all really grouped closely together. All right. And you guys, by the way, will all get disclosures from this that's going to happen. We're not, not that I'm down in Pew. People contribute to Pew and then they poll. By the way, Pew, Biden plus 10 today. All right, nationally. And then you have the Texas Tribune poll, which is Trump plus 5. The final Texas Tribune poll in 2016 was Trump plus 3. Of course, he won Texas by 9 points. So, and by the way, he was never at 50 in the Texas Tribune poll in 2016. The final Trump plus 3 was 45-42. So he was never at 50. And John Cornyn, by the way, Senator John Cornyn, also at 50. The Keystone State Battleground poll, by the way, it's big. It's about 7 minutes it's taking for interviews. I can't stand big ones. But there was just, when I went over it, there was almost no question I wanted a sacrifice. And we wanted more detailed ethnicity data. So when we ask people, for instance, which race or ethnicity best describes your ancestry, or best describes you, which is the typical ethnicity question: white, black or African American, Hispanic, Asian, or other race. After that, we asked more specifically which ethnic or national origin best describes your ancestry. And we did this for a reason. Robert and I talked about this, and we wanted this. And German, Irish, Italian, English, Polish, Dutch, French, Irish, Scottish, non-white, other. And there's a reason why we're doing that. And when we get the results and we go over it, we'll talk about it. There is a region called Dutch, and that includes Adams, Berks, Cumberland, Dauphin, Franklin, Lancaster, Lebanon, Perry, and York. And believe it or not, Dutch themselves don't make up the largest share. All right. Or really in that area, Pennsylvania has changed quite a bit, right? Lancaster itself is actually a big African-American population in Lancaster now. All right. But Germans are the number one in Pennsylvania, which maybe some people may find surprising, but we didn't distinguish between Pennsylvania German and German. It's just German. All right. Then after the region, which we give, right? And like we said, we broke Allegheny County out of the West because I'm not going to fall into the pit trap of thinking that the West is going, 55-45 because too many responses came from Allegheny County, or worse, Pittsburgh, right? So we specifically broke that out, and then we'll combine it later and we'll wait and say Allegheny is this much of the share of the vote of Western Pennsylvania as a whole. And we'll make sure that is representative only of that portion of the West. This way we don't over-represent one populated region because they took the survey at a higher rate, which that happens, and that does always happen. So that is how we got tens of percentage points in Pennsylvania in 2016. We really did break it down like that. And then each specific region got their own likely voter model applied. And that's how we came up with D plus 3 when everybody else was D plus 9. The electorate's going to be D plus 9. In the voter file in 2016, Pennsylvania was a little over D plus 11, about 11.2. Pennsylvania has moved 3 points more Republican since then. So with a D plus 11 and 2/10 voter file, the electorate was D plus 3. I tend to think it might have been a little bit higher. Maybe we were a little bit off, and he just won more of the Democratic vote. But it's so hard to go back and prove that for sure. It's just my sneaking suspicion. All right. And then after the region, we are asking which specific county. And we do get that with geotags and geolocation, deduping. But that's just a specific way to ask. So some of these other demographic things added and made it a bigger questionnaire. And I didn't want to get rid of, let me turn this off. And I didn't want to get rid of, and thank you, Corinne. That's what that was. I didn't want to get duplicate data, but I also wanted to be able to justify, to back it up, basically to verify it. And I didn't want to get rid of any of the sections that we were talking about. Trade relations and negotiations, very important, Pennsylvania. Fracking, very important. Trust to handle issues. Expressing political beliefs, which we added to the Florida Public Polling Project poll. Remember that? That was interesting. I didn't want to junk any of this. I couldn't figure out anything to get rid of. So I typically like smaller surveys, but I just, when it comes to this, I wanted to keep it the way it is. So so far there's no red flags, so that's where we're at. All right. But anyway, I really have a hard time believing it's Biden plus 10 to 18 points nationally, and Trump is winning winning Texas at 50% plus, which means he's probably going to win. Those undecided voters in every poll that we've done so far, undecideds. And by the way, we added a lean question in Pennsylvania because now is the time. It's time. And when we really push people, that undecided, maybe 7% chunk, maybe 4 to 5% of them also approved of the president. So they leaned to the president. So if he's at 50 right now in Texas, he's going to get 52 maybe percent of the vote when the undecideds break. And you're looking at a roughly similar victory when all is said and done. If they're right. That's what I'm saying. If they're right. So it would be curious to see whether people like Rasmussen start to come down, whether people like Tip start to go up for Biden, right? Zogby, whether he goes up. And people ask me about Zogby all the time. Let me just say real quick. Zogby's reputation issues, which is why you won't see him, referenced by people a lot. It wasn't for being too pro-Bush in 2004. It was from being too pro-Kerry. He projected that Kerry would win 300 and something electoral votes, and his polling was very Kerry friendly, and we all know how that worked out, right? So I'm not sure why the left doesn't like him, Looks like Monday will be probably the last day, if that. Early next week, we will have some results to talk about in Pennsylvania. And by that time, hopefully, we'll be firing off in Arizona. All right. I will tell you this. I hate divining results, trying to divine results from early collection. I hate it. All right. And things change. So you'll look stupid if after a day or two, you're like, oh, well, the poll kind of looks like this. Then the other quotas start to fill in and it totally changes. And then you look dumb, like, oh, I thought this was happening. Right. So I just let it do its thing and let it. I'm very superstitious like that. All right. But I can tell you this. It looks very, what's the word? Male. Mm-hmm. Right? So it was 53 female, 47 male in 2016. Let me just put it like this. I would not be shocked if PA was 52-48 or even 51-49. I would not be shocked at all. Men are very enthusiastic. Almost every rural male that we're reaching is extremely enthusiastic. They're certain they're going to vote. I don't remember an election like this. And again, it could change when quotas fill in. So don't hold me to it. But the reason why I'm comfortable saying this is because we found this in Florida. We found this everywhere. We found this in the Rust Belt in the last poll we conducted in the Rust Belt for the Epoch Times. Men were more enthusiastic and they were more certain. We also added, by the way, a question. Somebody had asked Laura, and I want to answer that. We did ask about voting intention. Mm-hmm. So how they intend to vote, right? So first they'll go through a registered voter screen just to make sure we reached who we intended to reach. Then they go through the likely voter screen, and then they go through presidential voting intention. And it's basically worded just like Gallup. Which of the following applies to you? You have already voted in this year's election, either by absentee ballot or early voting opportunities in your state. You plan to vote before Election Day, either by absentee ballot or early voting, or you plan to vote on Election Day itself. And the choices are already voted, either by absentee ballot or early voting. Plan to vote before Election Day, either by absentee ballot or early voting. Plan to vote on Election Day. All right. And then they get the vote preference question. Nothing else comes before that. There is no, the president said this, he won't accept the election results. Do you agree with that or not? By the way, who are you going to vote for? The president tweeted this the other day. No good. By the way, who are you going to vote for? That crap has to go after. Just like it wouldn't be fair for us to say, Joe Biden called himself a transition candidate. At 77, he'd be one old son of a to take the White House. Kamala Harris referred to the Harris administration several times. Are you comfortable with that? By the way, who are you going to vote for? You can't do that. Ballot preferences come first. All right. And by the way, if Target Smart really is accurate or is any indicator, aside from a 2% bump in the black vote, which is from last year, the electorate looks pretty damn old and pretty working class. So as far as people who have returned and voted early in Pennsylvania, right? But I would say these things change. And every year I caution people about reading the early vote tea leaves. And every year everyone thinks they can do it. And every year somebody makes a fool of themselves. Okay? Point being, Exhibit A. And my argument here is that it's going to be harder this time around. And I'll show it to you. I'm going to prove to you. I'm going to prove to you without a doubt that it in fact will be harder to read or divine the early tea leaves. Let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we? 2016, our final poll in North Carolina. Okay, which was, I believe, November 6th, right? I'd have to go back and look at it. I just put the margin here. Our final poll was Trump +3. It was one of the few states where, and the RCP average was Trump +1. There were Clinton +6s all over the place in North Carolina. 6, 4, 2, right? And maybe a Trump +1 here, Trump +2 there. The average was shifted by relatively few polls. And then the general consensus from everyone from Fox News to the New York Times model, the general consensus was that Hillary Clinton was going to eke North Carolina out. +6. Their model was like Clinton +1 or 2, and I'm going to show it to you in a second. All right. The final margin was Trump +3.7. North Carolina was one of 3 polls where we basically had a whole number because we gave to the tens of percentage points. We still do. You see it on Market Site when I brought it up. We had Trump 49, Clinton 46, and the final margin was 3.7 Trump. So contrary to the Slimer and others, we underestimated Donald Trump in North Carolina by 0.7 of a percentage point, as if you look at the overall spread. We underestimated him by a little bit more than that. It's just that she got a little bit more of the vote, right? We also underestimated him in Ohio. The only state we overestimated him was Virginia. All right. In Colorado, damn near nailed it. 48-45, Clinton +3. It was 4.9. So, okay, 1.9% underestimation from Mrs. Clinton in Colorado. Trump 1.2 was the final margin. In Florida, we had 1.6. 47.8 to 46.2. Why am I doing this? Because I'm trying to point out on the eve of this is what we had to deal with when we had the Trump +3 in North Carolina. What the early vote in North Carolina means, a daily tracker by Nate Cohen. November 5th, 2016. The figures in the chart below are not actual results. They are estimates based on the Upshot Siena College poll that showed Hillary Clinton and Donald J. Trump tied. All right, but it really wasn't. It was, if I remember, maybe the last one was tied, but the one before that was, I believe, Clinton +6. I'd have to go and look and hold me to it. But either way, this was their estimates. Hillary Clinton would win by 1.1 percentage points in North Carolina. And he says, there aren't many states more important this November than North Carolina, a rapidly changing state crucial to Donald J. Trump's hopes of winning the White House and to Democrats' hopes of winning the Senate. If Mr. Trump does not win the state, his path to the presidency, already narrow, becomes nearly impossible. There also aren't many states with better election data. That's true. At least it was back then. It is not now. Than North Carolina. The state releases detailed individual level information on every voter in the state. It even publishes a daily account of who has voted, et cetera, et cetera. All right. And that is true. 100% true. But here's where Nate Cohen went wrong. The same way he went wrong in 2018 in Florida. When he's polling Democrats back then, North Carolina has shifted. I think it's like 2 to 4 points Republican in registration. but it has shifted considerably Republican in registration over the last 4 years. That was not always the case. For many, many, many years, Democrats had a huge registration edge. All right. Older, white, ancestral Democrats, mainly in the southern and western regions of the state, that would vote Republican at the presidential level. Conservative Democrats. All right. And they were there in 2016. Many of them now have registered Republican, but there are still a significant portion of them. When Mr. Cohen and Sienna polled North Carolina, they used, you guessed it, the live caller to cell phone and landline, which reaches certain groups of people at higher rates than others, as you know from watching this damn show. And he didn't see that there was going to be a big crossover vote for Donald Trump. And when I say big, I mean big, double digits. They are registered Democrats, but they vote Republican at the national level. But because he only reached people in Wade County and the Atlantic coast and so on and so forth, he didn't get a representative sample, and he never reached those Democrats who said they were going to vote Republican. So when he estimated that, he blew the wad. Go back just to get the right 3.7. So he was 4.8 percentage points off in the estimate. For almost a 5-point miss. That's what happens when you only call school teachers and librarians and healthcare workers. I'm adding that to Barnes's list. Robert, I'm adding that to your list because we were talking the other day of profiling people in different regions of the state. We always show you the maps with distributions. And then, when we were looking at the more metro responses, they were like overwhelmingly, school teachers, librarians, really, no joke. And then, so I'm adding that to the list because going over it, those are the professions, not the welders, right? And harkening back to Pennsylvania, not the steel workers, not the self-made business people. All right, that's they don't have time they're not going to talk to you on the phone. And if you do reach them, you're not going to reach enough. And by the way, real quick before we go on to the next chart, this idea that you can argue population, that's because these areas have higher degrees of population. That's the entire point. That is the argument this industry has been having for years now. That is the damn point. You can't call 3 people in Greene County and get an idea of how Greene County is going to vote. It doesn't matter how much Greene County's population is. Everybody needs to be adequately sampled to be adequately represented. You cannot extrapolate like that anymore. And I don't know how many times we have to have one miss after another before we come to this agreement. I don't know what vendor he used. Well, I guess he's using the L2, but if he was to pick up the phone and call the people at wherever he works, maybe Dynata, whatever, they'll tell you that. They know damn well that you're not going to get that. You just can't do it. Anyway, moving on. All right, so this year will be even worse to try to read and divine the tea leaves for early voting. It is always difficult to do. And I know, Larry, you loves to do that. I don't look at the early vote. And I get you can. It's one data set. It's one data set, but it's very difficult. It almost always leans Democrat, and it can really screw you up. Fox News's electoral projections and from their decision desk, North Carolina was blue on their map in 2016 until 8:30 or something at night. Might have been 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Chris Steyerwalt was midday, stated plainly, well, we're looking at the early vote data and there's just no way for Donald Trump to catch up. And David Bossi's across the table like, the hell are you talking about? Those registrations don't mean what you think they mean. Trump is in that area of the state. Trump is going to take 20% of those registrations. What? That's crazy. And obviously it was not. So it's always difficult to discern. This time, it'll be more difficult. Here's the Sunshine State Battleground poll we conducted. Trust in mail-in voting by party. As you can see, Democrats are the only group who had a great deal of trust in mail-in voting in a state that has been conducting absentee ballots for decades. Significant absentee ballot voting for decades. Democrats were alone in a sizable plurality saying they have a great deal of confidence. All right? 42.9% of Democrats said they had a great deal, trust enough in it that they, will go vote and use that method. That compares to 20.3% of independents who were much more closely aligned with Republicans at 18.8%. A fair amount, again, Democrats, 35.6%. Independents, only 26%, Republicans, 20.3%. Not very much. Republicans, 34%. Only 16% of Democrats. And there you have independents right there again with Republicans at 33.8%. None at all. More than a quarter of Republicans, 26.8%, and then 19.9% independents right there again, close with Republicans, not with the Democrat, in line with Democrats. So of those independents you're going to see responding to these polls who say they early voted already or returned an absentee ballot, do you think they're going to be more liberal independents or more conservative independents? This is not rocket science. These people are going, and this is something that's going to be a challenge for the Trump campaign, because now they're going to have to get all those voters out on election day. They've convinced them this is not trustworthy. And they've made their get out the vote operation that much harder. Now, I'm not saying they don't have a point on casting doubt on this kind of an election. The fact of the matter is, no matter what you agree with or disagree with, the Wisconsin ruling was a win for the Republicans yesterday. No doubt it was. And it really, frankly, was a win for self-governance, because we just spoke to them a week and a half ago, and they were barely keeping their heads above water. The officials in Wisconsin, they weren't going to give us any down to precinct level data. They couldn't even report normal kinds of data points for when on election night that we asked for, and then later when they would count their absentee ballots. They couldn't even do it. They told us we can't offer you that information because we barely can keep our head above water. We're just hoping that we could count votes. They are not equipped for this. Even states that have been doing this for years, they are not equipped to turn this election into some quasi mail-in vote election in 3 months. It was unrealistic and an impossible task. And I'm telling you, so they have the point there. But the flip side of that is Republicans, which are the return ballots right now in Wisconsin, are D+4. Michigan's about tied. Ohio's R+8. So my Ohio polling doesn't look so crazy now, does it? Ohio is R+8. But in Wisconsin, it's D+4. And if he hopes to have a chance in Wisconsin, he's going to have to get his voters to the ballot box on election day. Something, by the way, without Scott Walker, has proven quite difficult for Republicans in special elections. And I mean, they did well in Wisconsin 7, no doubt, but they could have done better. There's just a certain get out the vote that's aligned with Scott Walker. It's the Walker vote, and Trump got them out, not because of Scott Walker. It's just that was a very different year, right? So it depends how Western Wisconsin goes. He may need a much bigger turnout to offset losses in some other counties in the Southwest. All right. And look, we're not the only, this is Florida. We found this everywhere. Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ohio, Iowa, Michigan, everywhere. And we're not the only ones. Here's Gallup from yesterday. Registered voters, voting intentions by party, 2004 to 2020. Which of the following applies to you? This is almost exactly how we asked the question. You have already voted in this year's election, either by absentee ballot or early voting opportunities in your state. You plan to vote before Election Day, either by absentee ballot or early voting opportunities in your state. We're just not as redundant as them. We say, we don't repeat that voting opportunities in the state twice. Or you plan to vote on Election Day. Look at the difference this year. 2016, 35% of independents said they were going to vote but on what's it called? 47% of independents this year. That's the difference. Look at Republicans, 28%. 28%. That's it. That's down from 42. Hasn't been that low since 04. Hasn't been that low. But look at Democrats in 04, 22%. Because it wasn't, look, we're going back to when early, this in-person and absentee ballot voting, early voting methods, different ways, it was not as prevalent as it is now. And you can see Democrats constantly rising. Republicans were coming along to the game. They were about on par in 2016. And now there's a huge disparity. 34 points. So how could you divine? My point being, how could you feel confident enough to divine what the early vote is saying this year when you couldn't do it last year when it was roughly even? So you had Republicans and Democrats almost saying to pollsters, almost by the same percentages, saying they're going to take advantage of early voting, 44, 42%, 44 versus 42%, roughly on par for the first time ever, and they still screwed the pooch. Yet somehow this year, with the largest disparity in history, they're going to get this right. This is a little bit crazy, don't you think? Your hubris is running away with you. That is a massive flag. You should not be reading into these early vote tea leaves as much as people are trying to convince you to do so. There are way too many uncertainties, which is why yesterday, frankly, when I looked at Pennsylvania, I was frankly surprised. Really. I expect this to be much more lopsided. And the polling suggests that it would be. But at least in Pennsylvania, by age, by demographics, it doesn't look bad for Republicans at all. It doesn't. All right. So there you have it. Also, a little tidbit before I take my 30-second, because I went a little over. A little tidbit in the Texas Tribune poll. Republicans have a 7-point lead on the generic ballot. It's possible. It's possible in Texas. Look, they took Pete Sessions' seat in 2018. Will Hurd, his seat is incumbency kept that seat from going in 2018. These are seats that could stay Republican, or in the case of the Sessions seat, could flip back Republican if there really is a 7-point advantage on the congressional ballot in Texas. And the USC poll, by the way, Republicans are running a little bit ahead in the Senate. So they break it down by House and Senate, which would seem to back my review of why Rasmussen was so wrong in 2018. Yeah, you have to distinguish, folks, between the House and the Senate. If you haven't seen that show, you don't know what I'm talking about. Barnes and I have spoken about it. But just to repeat for those who didn't, you have got to distinguish when you are asking the generic ballot question that you are talking about the U.S. House of Representatives. If you just say Congress, there are many people who simply will not know what you're talking about. They may think, and especially if they are in a state with a competitive Senate race that's getting a lot of media attention, they may think that you are referring to the Senate. That is what Rasmussen kept the wording of the question that was designed by Scott Rasmussen. They kept it after he left. They paid the price for it because wording matters. If the elections for the U.S. House of Representatives were held today, for which party candidate would you vote in your congressional district? That is the correct way of asking it. And the Republican candidate, the Democratic candidate, someone else, undecided. All right. Or however you want to tailor it if it's a specific district. All right, listen, I'm going to take a quick 30-second break. When we return, we will get to, I know you guys probably have a lot of questions this week. We'll recap the week briefly, and then we'll get to your questions. There was a lot of economic stuff that I don't think we should just ignore. And I tied it in yesterday, with a few, but it's good to do at least a brief recap. And then there's one, Laura, the U6 rate. I've been wanting to go over this article with you guys for a while. It's 2 articles in a row now. We decided after the jobs report would come out that we would compare, since Biden's whole slogan is Build Back Better, right? And what he's talking about is, I've led an economic recovery before. I'll do it again. And by the way, I'm a decent guy. In Texas, they actually view Donald Trump more favorably than Joe Biden, which is kind of funny because I know we polled everywhere. Just Trump does not poll well favorably. He is the best, though, in the Rust Belt in our polling. And that also, that goes for the Sun Belt as well, except for Florida. In Florida, he's actually pretty well liked. All right. So when we come back, I want to talk about that because this is his whole argument. Aside from the very fine people hoax being the final straw that pushed him into the race, this is his argument. And we're going to look at a very important indicator that shows whether or not labor market conditions truly will rebound any better under Joe Biden. All right. He had his chance. He's got a record, and we can go over it. And it's stunning. When we compare them, it's stunning. All right. So look, we'll be back in 30 seconds. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube page. We're probably over 5,000 already. And hit the notification bell when you, this way you'll know when we're going live. Don't forget, speaking of live, Facebook Live is also a good stream. Mosey on over to Facebook, folks, and click the like button for People's Pundit Daily. All right.
FYI, since we changed the settings on Periscope, less crashes and everything.
And it's better now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that, guys. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, we're at almost 5.4 thousand subscribers. We started the week in the 4s. On Monday, YouTube sent us their usual thing. Congratulations, you made it to 4,000. Your minutes watched are in the millions, and they sent us all the stats. That was just 4,000, and it's already, and I didn't refresh it from opening the window earlier. It's already 5,400 subscribers or something, 5,380 and change. So really cool. It's really cool. We're like a snowball. They can't stop us. Can't stop us. That's what Laura does. Can't stop us. Can't stop. She's adorable. All right, we'll be back in 30 seconds. It's Freewheeling Friday. You guys mind if I take a sip of coffee? Normally I'll...
It's Friday.
It's Friday. All right. Yeah, I will. You got your thing on?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear Laura okay?
I don't know if they can hear me.
Give me a sound check, folks. Can you give me a sound check?
Hello.
Hello. Check one. They say no. Did you mute your own mic? I unmuted you. But it's possible. Fish and chips. Yeah, but do you hear her like she's in a microphone? Because she is like over there. So yeah, Steve Scully. Oh my God. I can't believe I didn't bring this up. Very disappointed. But I am no stranger to being disappointed. Vince says he can hear you. I'm very strange, and I am no stranger to being disappointed by the media, but I am very disappointed. Steve Scully, C-SPAN, debate moderator, supposed to be, class act. Busted with Scaramucci, devising whether or not they should, rig the game against Trump. This is a short story. In the next debate. Yeah, she's not on a microphone, Ryan. I don't think she is. Oh, wait. You unmuted it? Here, let me see if I can. Now let me try it. I guess not. I don't turn
Did
your volume. Is it your volume? I added you. You're there.
Sure.
Yep, you're there. But yeah, so Steve Scully busted with Scaramucci talking about, Scaramucci, by the way, for those who don't know, is a traitor to Trump. He used to follow me too. He used to, but the bottom line is Trump's trade strategy with Anthony Scaramucci. Trump's trade strategy with China cost Anthony Scaramucci a lot of money. All right. He had a bunch of funds that he was going to be managing. He lost all that money. All right. So Anthony Scaramucci does not now disagree with Trump and not like Trump because they had an argument over morals and values. Okay. Anyone who would believe that is really naive. Anthony Scaramucci cares about money, and he lost a lot of money. And that is why he is mad at Donald Trump. Okay. Just the same reason why Paul Ryan did not get along with Donald Trump. It had nothing to do with values or ideology. Paul Ryan's benefactors, people who supported Paul Ryan for many years, were going to lose millions, collectively billions of dollars by Trump with his hand, wave of his hand, doing away with the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That is why. All right. So this idea like these are all of a sudden good guys and Trump is the only one with character flaws is really naive, guys. Really, I got a bridge to sell you. It's a total joke. Anthony Scaramucci is not known for being a fantastically high character guy. All right. So, it's just crazy. Just stop. So anyway, Steve Scully is going on and on with him. And he's busted. I'm with Tom Bevan from Real Clear Politics. Now, that sounded like you really were at it. Let me see something.
I'm here.
There you are. Okay,
Here I am.
All right, try to speak.
Hello.
There you go. All right, I'm going to mute just so we don't get feedback. When you're ready to talk, I'll mute myself. And then it's Mike right here that picks her up. All right, we gotta figure out a way. Cardioid that puppy or something. I don't know. But in any event, I'm with Tom Bevan. If we're not going to scrap debate moderators altogether in favor of a Lincoln Douglas style debate, which I tend to favor we should, I just don't think they provide any value anymore. And they ask questions that come from a perspective like we talked about when we reviewed the vice presidential debate. They come from a very DC perspective. Even Americans who are going to vote for Joe Biden don't have that viewpoint. That's on Republicans and bad messaging, not convincing them to vote for them. But they align more. Their worldview, many of them, align not with Susan Page from USA Today, not with Steve Scully, not with Joe Biden. They align with middle America. And they do a disservice to the country when they ask questions like, the economy isn't recovering. We're going to look at that in a second. That's crazy. Of course it is. With the exception of certain labor market indicators that are uniquely influenced by the sabotage that is the shutdown, which is coming from Democratic cities and states, everything is recovering at a quicker pace than pre-pandemic levels. Many of these indicators, if they're not back to the 2018 3% GDP boom year, they're even further back than that, i.e. housing. You have to go back, sometimes never. Sometimes the builder confidence, all-time high. Pending home sales, all-time high. You can't, new home sales since the 2006 pre-Great Recession era. And so that's lunacy. But if we're not going to junk these moderators who ask retarded questions like that, if we're not going to junk them all together in favor of a Lincoln Douglas style debate, then I'm with Tom Bevan. And we should just have partisan hacks, not even hacks. We should just have open partisans co-host debates. So his example was Hannity fires at Joe Biden. And Rachel Maddow fires at Donald Trump. That's a great example. But listen, the idea that Susan Page is nonpartisan and objective, that Chris Wallace is nonpartisan and objective, that Steve Scully, we now know, is nonpartisan and objective, is a fraud. It's a con. And it does a disservice to the country. The equivalent of those guys is more like a Tucker Carlson, not like a Sean Hannity. Tucker would be a much more objective. Does anyone who really, if you watch Tucker, now I know he leans to the right, but if you watch Tucker, is there anyone who would seriously argue for you, for those of you who actually know and don't believe what you read on Media Matters or Mediaite, all right, is there anyone who seriously argues that Tucker is not more objective than Susan Page or Chris Wallace? Chris Wallace is not objective. He hasn't been objective in years, which is why his show sucks. And his ratings are crap. It's just a far cry from Brit Hume. It's a far cry from, as far as debate moderators go, the great Jim Lehrer. Who, by the way, I have no doubt would not have personally agreed with Donald Trump, but nevertheless would have moderated that debate fairly and objectively.
Somebody said Greg Gutfeld.
Hold on.
All I was saying is somebody said Gutfeld, and that's somebody too. Greg would mince both sides equally because he really is a libertarian at heart.
Yeah, that's another great example because Tucker Carlson is not like a Republican. He's not, just unless you're foolish. And like I said, you believe Media Matters or something. He's not. He would thrash the both of them. Yeah, and so would Greg. Yeah, that's a great example. But again, if this is the way it's going to be, then we should just, and in fact, the entire idea that the Commission on Presidential Debates is nonpartisan is a total joke. We actually looked up what we were on a conference call about a week ago with the Trump campaign media call presser. And they were rattling off all of these donations from the people on the commission. And there is one person, I'm not going to get into, but who claims to be a Republican, but he's made and has on the record anti-Trump remarks. They have all made anti-Trump remarks. One of them flatly said he's bad for the country. The idea that these are nonpartisan is a freaking joke. They don't need to be there. They should be abolished. Thank you, sister. Told you. Thank you.
I love her name.
They should be abolished. There is no point to have them at all. They're like the CBO. Their sole purpose is to perpetuate the construct. There will never be any objectivity. There will never be. Apparently, like I said, Jim Lehrer would not have agreed with Donald Trump. I think that's pretty safe to say. But there's nobody with his ethics anymore. There's nobody with his character and his virtue. There's just nobody.
Nope.
They're gone. They put up Chris Wallace. He's supposed to be the best.
Yeah, all right.
He failed miserably.
And
He was a disgrace to debate moderators. Yeah, like a Walter Cronkite or something. I just think they don't exist anymore. So we should just junk them. And looking at Susan, let's go to that article. Looking at Susan Page's "the economy's not recovering" comment, asinine comment. A completely untrue, asinine comment. All right? Totally false. The U6, this is now the second article in a series about U6 unemployment since we're supposed to build back better. And I'm going to read this verbatim. U6 unemployment fell more in 5 months under Trump-Pence than in 5 years under Obama and Biden. Comparing job market recoveries, Trump-Pence far surpassed Obama and Biden. Former Vice President Joe Biden is claiming he would build back better than President Donald Trump after the economic shutdown to mitigate the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, citing his record following the Great Recession. However, the U6 unemployment rate has fallen more in 5 months post-shutdown under the Trump-Pence administration than it did in 5 years post-Great Recession under Obama, Biden, and it took 5 years to fall to comparable levels. It never even got that high. but it fell to it actually rose, and you're going to see it rose after the recession was pronounced over. This is the second article in a series objectively comparing recoveries of key labor market indicators during the Obama, Biden, and Trump-Pence administrations. The first was also published following the release of the employment situation, which you all commonly know and refer to as the jobs report. So after the July one, we started this. If there's two, it's actually, if you go and read this, if you're a subscriber, it's right here. All right, the U6 is an alternative measure of unemployment defined as the rate for total unemployed plus all marginally attached workers and total employed part-time for economic reasons as a percent of the total civilian labor force plus all marginally attached workers. And this is why you could tell that Joe Biden and Barack Obama's economy was a low wage to no wage part-time economy that may, like, Page and Wallace citing Democratic talking points. Would you rather have 250? Actually, we'd have to go high. Would you have 300,000 McDonald's jobs or 250 manufacturing and construction jobs? Which one was it? Because under Obama, you were either, like a professional service person or leisure and hospitality or some other part-time crap wage job in which you could not support a family with, on which the U6 rate, often referred to as the real unemployment rate, hit an all-time high of 22.8% during shutdown in April. It climbed to the previous high of 17.1% in October 2009 after the Obama-Biden administration took office in January 2009. And after the Great Recession, by the way, was pronounced over, it continued to rise. It remained around that level for an additional 9 months after the Great Recession ended in the summer of 2009. All right, and here is the chart here. This is Obama. Obama took office here, okay? You can clearly see the recession goes on till the summer, and it continues to rise. It still continues to rise, and then eventually hit that 7.1 at that time, and then it continues to fall, but albeit it takes a very, very long time. Trump takes over. It starts to stagnate a little bit here, as you can clearly see. It bumps up a little bit in 18. There was some, there was a period of evolution from when a lot of these leisure and hospitality jobs gave way to actual high paying jobs in a goods producing sector, right? And other areas of the service sector that pay more. And it was a bit of a shift. So it bumps up a little bit and then starts to come down. And I think it may have hit an all-time low under Trump. It did. Of course. It fell to an all-time low under Donald Trump, 6.7%, I think, is the all-time low. And then, of course, we have because we could go to the 1 year and we can look, and we have the shutdown, which sends it in 1 month to 22.8%. And it has fallen precipitously ever since. It fell briefly to 14.5% in March 2012, slightly above the 14.2% rate that was achieved in only the fourth month post-COVID shutdown in August, before increasing again under Obama over the course of that year. It wasn't until the following year that the U6 rate fell to or below 14.2%. In March of 2013, it fell to 13.8% and rose again over the next few months. It finally began to fall consistently later that summer, 5 years after they were first inaugurated. The bigger the recession, the steeper the drop. Why is that law holding true under Trump and Pence? Mm-hmm. But it did not hold true under Obama and Biden. Why? Suck policy. That's why. Really, I mean, that is why. Because they fought Republican governors every step of the way who were trying to implement statewide economic reforms to get their states back on track. And in fact, the economy
achieved what it did despite them, not because of them, despite them, because Republicans took 30 state houses and did everything they could to make it a better environment. Nikki Haley, great example, South Carolina. You may not like her if you don't like neocons and people like her. Fact of the matter is, she tried to make that state far more business friendly, and the Obama administration sued her. Boeing, remember that? That economy recovered as much as it did, even though it was a far slower than average recovery. It did despite them, not because of them. In September 2020, the U6 unemployment rate fell significantly to 12.8% and has now fallen 10% over the last 5 months. It wasn't until January of 2014, a full 5 years, that the U6 unemployment rate fell to a comparable level below 13% at 12.7%. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics monthly jobs report found the U.S. economy added 661,000 jobs in September, and the unemployment rate fell more than expected to 7.9%. Manufacturing employment increased 66,000 in September, double the forecast. While the headline for total non-farm payrolls fell shy of the forecast, job creation was far stronger than expected over the prior 2 months. And why do I have, by the way, a sneaking suspicion that 661 is going to be revised higher?
Because I made you cynical.
Why? Because you made me a cynic. That's right, sweetie. You made me a cynic. Why do I have the inkling in the back of my mind that is going to be revised higher? Forecast for the unemployment rate. Oh, by the way, so job creation was stronger than expected and unemployment fell more than expected. Forecast for the unemployment rate ranged from a low of 7.1 to a high of 8.6. The consensus was only 8.2. Total non-farm payroll employment for July, are you ready for this, folks? There's some big ones here, was revised higher by 27,000 jobs, from 1,734,000 to 1,761,000. The change for August was revised higher by 118,000, from 1.371 million to 1,489,000. With these revisions, employment in July and August combined was 145,000 more jobs than initially reported. Maybe that's why I have an inkling that it will be higher. When we compare these records, it's not even close. It's not even close. Not even close. All right. So it's 11:03. I took a late break. We're gonna take our little halftime. There's a couple other things I want to talk about, but outside of that, we can answer some questions because I know there are a lot of questions, Laura said. So did we do a Freewheeling Friday yesterday? What happened? It's possible. Let me just do a couple show announcements. It's possible that I need to drive my mother-in-law across the country on Monday, all right, or Sunday, because of Governor Roy Cooper. All right, yeah. You know what? Not that I got permission to blow up her business or anything, but the problem with making what could be and what is essential for certain people for healthcare, the problem with making them electives is that they're not elective to everybody. All right. Some people absolutely need treatment that they cannot get right now. If you're a veteran, by the way, like I am, I dare you to try to change the region in which you get your veteran health care at.
That part.
It's not going to happen. If I didn't have such a fantastic group of people who are looking out for me, I'd be up creek without a paddle too. So it's possible inside the numbers won't be on either Monday or Tuesday. But because we have, what are the odds? Yeah, what are the odds? But because we have the polling from Pennsylvania that's going to be coming out, I'm doing something. If I have to scope on the highway in the Subaru, I'll do it. I swear. And you know me with my memory, I'll just remember a whole lot of crap. right? I mean, that's it. I will digest what is going on in Pennsylvania, and we'll just have to deal without the charts.
Well, just like a little blurb,
Yeah, but I will give you, and then we will go over it thoroughly on Tuesday when I come back. But I'm hoping that's not the case. It's possible. She's trying to make sure that it's not. But Laura will be busy with the kids, so it's not like she can run the production of the show and make it easy on me. So it would have to be like a Zoom or something, or not a Zoom. We'll do it here on this platform as always. But I mean like the phone in the car holder, on the dash. Like, all right, folks, here we are. Blink, 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 blink. And you'll be hearing all the big tractor trailers when you pass them on the highway, and it's like, you just have to deal with it. Right? All right.
Lordy.
So here we go. But I'll do it because it's the people's ball. And you don't want to wait for it. And you shouldn't have to. So I'll do it. It's just not going to be your typical show. That's for darn sure. All right. So here we are. Let me take 2 minutes. All right. So People's Pundit Daily sponsors Inside the Numbers. If you want to support the show, the best way to do so is to subscribe to People's Pundit Daily, which you can do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. Can't promise you we'll cover everything because we don't, but I can promise you that what we do cover will be better than everyone else, like the great article we just read off from now. Get some data for your dollar. All right. And then don't forget, of course, to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you didn't already, and to like the page on Facebook. We will be back in 2 minutes. I will leave you with the soothing sounds of the Bowen Band.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, we're back. We're Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at People's_Pundit. And don't forget to follow us on subscribe to us on YouTube which you can do by going to People's Pundit Daily on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. It'll tell you when we're going live. And like the page, People's Pundit Daily. All right. Let's see. Real quick. One word of a thing. If you were trying to book me to talk about the show, don't call me during the show or I'm not coming on your show. All right. If you can't respect that my show is from 10 to 12, I'm not going on your damn show. All right. Let that be a last warning. Okay. All right. So there we are. All right. So here we go. Let's just start off rattling off, taking some questions. I mean, it's been a while. Let's get Laura in here.
All right. So we have Freewheeling Friday. Evan Bliss, he said happy birthday. And
Thank you,
a lot of people said happy birthday, just FYI.
Thank you, everyone.
Can Trump beat the polls and win this election on turnout alone without convincing any persuadable voters? Also, did the debate cause the bottom to fall out for Trump? And what type of voter is switching from Clinton to Trump and Trump to Biden?
All right, let me start off with beating the poll question. I mean, yeah. I mean, the AP poll, GFK, October 24th was Clinton plus 14. All right. It showed that Donald Trump was only getting 79% of his base. Clinton was getting 90% of his base, and Clinton was winning 90% of her base, and Clinton was winning independents by about 10 points. It was going to be a rout. People like to forget, and I hate to tell everybody, but the polling aggregators out there, we have screenshots. We can tell you they change it up to make it look like it was better than it was. All right. Believe me, I remember I almost had a freaking heart attack. Right. Mm-hmm. It was horrible. They are a little bit better for Biden nationally this time. There's more widespread consensus on that widening out post debate, which I don't think is the debate. And I'll tell you in a second. There's a lot more widening out this time. But in the battleground states, that's not really true. We just looked at it yesterday, and actually Biden's about 0.2 of a percentage point shy totally of the aggregate in the battleground states than Hillary Clinton was in 2020. Now, that may change because there was a slew of polls released that aren't great, although we have some good ones for Trump today in battleground states, not nationally. But the bottom line is he can beat them. It's happened before, folks. And the biggest errors tend to be when people don't catch on to the bigger class divides. That's why I'm really interested in Pennsylvania, because I want to either confirm or not confirm some of the stuff that we are seeing in public polling. If it is true, I'll tell you it's true. If it's not, I'll tell you it's not. Or at least that we're not finding that. I don't think it was the debate. If there's anything the debate influenced, it's response bias. All right, which is that maybe people just thought it was a quagmire, and the media university polls use the data collection mode that is most susceptible to two types of biases. One is response bias, which is what actually helped Mitt Romney in 2012. I've used that example before. Mitt Romney was never ahead of Barack Obama by 4 points. He simply was a benefactor of response bias because he had a good debate performance. And most Republicans did not feel that they were participating in the polls before. After that, they wanted to participate more in the polls. That is what is called response bias. Again, nothing I say is a secret in this industry. Everybody knows it's true. And live caller polling is the most susceptible to two types. One is response bias, and the other, of course, is social desirability bias. If there was any real damage to Donald Trump, I personally believe, after polling now almost 10 states, I personally believe that is from him catching the coronavirus. He looks like he wasn't taking it seriously, maybe. And there are some people out there that really the coronavirus hurt him with. All right. That he probably would have won he would have won many of these voters over in the end, toward the end, if it was not for the coronavirus. And maybe people who were willing to give him a second look again after he got the coronavirus were like, damn, now he got it because there are a lot of people that still, I hate to say it, but it's true. There are a lot of people who still believe this propaganda machine we call the national corporate media. They do. And how they reported Trump's coronavirus was that he was being irresponsible with rallies. He wasn't wearing a mask at the debate. They believe this crap. There is no science to prove that, of course. And we certainly don't know, with the exception of what his own personal doctor said, which is that a mask would not have helped him, would not have prevented him
from catching the corona. By the way, the entire liberal talking point is that masks prevent you from giving someone else coronavirus. So you can't have it both ways, guys. All right. But either way, even if it was the other way around, we still have no evidence to prove that. Outdoor transmission is nil. It's nothing. Truth be told, Ronna McDaniel had coronavirus, or at least that's the word. And there were a lot of people around the president that had him when they spent time with him. So that's much more likely to be the cause of Trump. I'm sure they know exactly when Donald Trump got the coronavirus, but it's a weak point for him. And it also brings coronavirus back into focus. Coronavirus was falling as an issue of concern and a top voting issue, or most important factor issue. It was falling consistently. And the more it fell, the better Donald Trump did. The more the riots got out of the headlines, the worse he did. So if there is truly a bottom falling out, that's what it would be. And I suspect it's maybe a little bit of both. So he caught the coronavirus, reinforcing that narrative against him, plus response bias. That's how you go from Biden plus 4 and 6 to Biden plus 10 to 14. Folks, he's not going to win the damn election by 14 points. All right? I mean, let's get real. Barack Obama won a landslide 8-point win. And our country since then has turned incredibly more polarized. Andrew Gillum was never going to win independents in Florida by 20 points. Independents don't move like that in Florida. They don't. All right? They were just wrong. So the answer is yes, he can. And I think I answered some of the questions that you're talking about. In 2018, just to add something to this, in 2018, Democrats actually did better with certain groups of rural voters. So in Iowa, in Wisconsin, in states, unfortunately for Donald Trump, that he needs to do better in, Democrats actually did better in those, among those kinds of rural voters. Now, Pennsylvania is a little bit different. And when it comes to the presidential level, partisan voting indexes are much more strict and they have less give. All right. North Carolina is a great example. Maybe a registered Democrat, but at the presidential level, the partisan voting index is much stronger. All right. So even though the polls may say this or that or the other thing, in the end, these other indicators that almost never fail us, they tend to be more predictive. All right. So in Florida, some of the voters that Biden may do better among, maybe independents in Hillsborough. We had Biden up in Hillsborough by 11. All right. But, geez, I'm getting blown up here. Oh, it's my birthday.
It's your birthday too.
That's why. Can you text him and tell him I love him, but
Yes.
but I'm busy. All right. Independents in Hillsborough seem to be going for Biden at a bigger rate than Hillary. All right. But at the same time, we had better, got FaceTime up here for some reason. But at the same time, we had a bigger margin for Donald Trump in the Orlando Atlantic Coast area. Why? He's doing better among Hispanics. All right. We have him doing better in Miami-Dade. Why? He's doing better among Hispanics. But in our polling in Suffolk, USA Today, once you get near that 60% as a Republican in Florida, it's over. Especially if you're going to win 40% of the Hispanic vote. It's over. All right. So, I mean, I understand what some people are concerned about if you're a Trump supporter, but these things demographics are demographics. There are only so many more voters on the table. I'll let you in on a little secret. When we get Escambia, Miami-Dade, and there's one more we haven't gotten yet. The current Democratic advantage in voter registration, which has now fallen below 200,000 for the first time ever since partisan tracking began in 1972, is now 185. That will fall even further. I didn't think that Republicans could get it down below 200. It may fall to like 135. It is not good. So that tells you how many votes are left on the table. So Trump does a little bit better in Orlando, about 4 points better. Does about 8 or 9 points better in the Miami-Dade area when you're talking about net. So that Hillsborough voter, which would be more like the liberal Puerto Rican voter, the independent, maybe moderate, that he does worse among them. And then in some areas, he's going to have to bring up his rural vote share, because contrary to everything you've heard, Pennsylvania is another great example. He lost the Philadelphia suburbs, folks. He lost them big by 16 points. But he still just barely carried the suburbs statewide. Now, in many areas, we are seeing Biden doing better in certain burbs. Those metro burbs are widening out the margin for Biden in the burbs. But if it's a state where Trump's urban vote gets a little bit better, coupled with his rural averages increasing, then it can offset that. All right. The polls this time around, the New York Times poll, look at their Texas versus the University of Texas, or whatever it was, Texas Tribune poll. That shows you how what the pollster is projecting can make all of the difference in the world. Nate Cohen's own polling, the Siena College poll in Texas, in a normal electorate for presidential elections, was Trump +8. The Texas Tribune is recognizing a little bit more new voters that may not be more favorable to Republicans. That's why they're Trump +5. But Nate Cohen added a lot of new voters, and they're overwhelmingly against Biden, even though the voter file data in Texas is very clear. A majority of these new movers are Republicans. I'm talking about people who are fleeing California, Nevada, the North, the Northeast. They are the ones who saved Ted Cruz from defeat. So this assertion, or this assumption, really it's an assumption, that this is going to be a much more liberal group of people comes only from his data collection mode. All right. It's just true. And I saw on Twitter as a post, by the way, something that is false. Somebody said, well, the Democrats are registering more new voters everywhere. That is not true.
Nope.
I hate to tell you, Florida, we just went over this. They did not get the Republicans they did not reduce the Democratic registration advantage to below 200,000 for the first time ever by getting white Democrats who are changing their registration. That is frankly false. We track it every month, update, and almost every month, Republicans have had the majority of new voters. That's coming from recent movers like Texas, same thing. And it's coming from new arrivals of Venezuelans and Cubans. The Cuban vote has gotten considerably more Republican under Donald Trump. He will outperform his vote last time. There is no doubt. I'm talking a 30-point spread. It was something we just never seen. Under Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, they damn near split the Cuban vote. Romney barely won it. Barely. We had younger people who are becoming more, they don't remember the oppression of the Castros, blah, blah, blah. And when Trump did what he did and reversed Obama's policies, which they did not like Obama's policies, when he reversed them and he let in a bunch of new Cuban voters, a lot of them were, naturalized, and here we are. Same thing with Venezuelans. In a state as close as Florida, folks, a new block, maybe 58,000 or so, that's going 70% for you. So you're netting like 45,000 new voters is a big freaking deal. It's a big deal. All right. So to answer his question, finally, I'll just say this. This is everything the Republican Party always wanted. This is everything Never Trump always wanted. This is everything Reince Priebus always wanted. This is everything Paul Ryan, his friend, always wanted. A more diverse Republican Party. Right?
That's what they tell you.
That's what they tell you anyway, right? Didn't they tell you that? After Paul Ryan got his kicked in 2012, that's what they wanted. Well, they got it. And now they're driving away a part of their white base out of spite. So that really tells you everything about who's realigning where. All right, let me kill my own mic, Lord.
Oh boy.
Are killing me.
Well, I will be helping you with that shortly. Anyway, Sir J. Pat wants to know, I know Rich doesn't read the early voting tea leaves, but could he touch on the argument Larry and Barnes have made on them and what he thinks the problems with those arguments are?
I think they'll probably fill out more as we get closer to the election. It'll get more Democratic, as you know what I'm saying? Like Ohio is significantly more Republican in the early vote than I even thought. So if Trump wins big on election day, they could just kiss that damn state. And I mean, it wouldn't be responsible to call it. We have ballots we're not allowed to count for 10 days. But Laura, if the early ballot, that we're not allowed to count is R+8, and Trump is leading 65-35 on election day or 55-45, how the hell do they intend to get Trump? You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's just total. So it's got to get, for Democrats, Ohio has got to get more Democratic. So what they're saying, Barnes and Larry are saying, they're looking at a lot of stuff like first, and I agree, they're right, at least so far. I tend to think it will get more Democratic as we get close, because every Republicans we're polling are just, they don't trust it. So I'm a little bit shocked by their activity, their participation levels right now. All right. But what Larry and Barnes are talking about really are twofold. One, it's a lot whiter and a lot more working class and a lot older. The youth vote has dropped off considerably. Democrats absolutely know it's a huge problem. They are counting on the suburban woman to save them. Okay. That is it. I mean, they know, even though Biden and company, they're getting out now. Amazingly, coronavirus it's no longer irresponsible. You're getting your kicked on voter registration, so it's no longer irresponsible to go out and register voters, right? Door to door is the most efficient. It's not even close. I just so hypocritical. But in any event, they're doing it for a reason. They know they are in a lot of trouble. Even Center County in Pennsylvania, that is not good. Again, I have actually right in front of me from doing the polling in Pennsylvania. Center, which was, let's pull up the map from 2016. All right. Year is, okay. Here's 2016's map. Center is the big blue county in the center of the state. All right. Light. That is light blue. And that is the only island of Democratic support in a sea of red. It's statewide. Last month alone, Democrats lost another over 200 voters, 276, nearly 300, and Republicans gained 724. And that has been the trend in Center County. All right. Now, that's where you have State College in there. So, I mean, really, you would think they could hold on to that. But if this continues and it's older and those Democrats did not get those voter registration drives out, and nobody's on campus. And I mean, I get what people are saying, that there's still a lot of suburban voters. And if they go against Trump heavily, they wouldn't necessarily need those young voters. And that's kind of true, except there is a big, I'm telling you, look. And by the way, the Target Smart data that they're referring to does show that we were on to something. Men are voting at higher rates. They are. I don't know if that, I think, like I said, though, I think that will get more Democratic as time goes on. And for people who don't know, like I said before, latest shows, like Wisconsin's about D+4. Michigan is even. Although the Emerson poll in Michigan was bad. Even though our polling was closer in Michigan, it still told me it was heavy lift for Donald Trump. 2 points, we only had it, but it was, I mean, Oakland County, the shift was heavy, and Macomb may not be able to battle it to a draw. It would probably be a net gain for Biden, even though it might be a smaller net gain. He would still have a lot of votes coming out of Wayne County. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But that's about even right now. And Ohio is R+8. So, which, as I said before, I know what they're saying, and I get it, and there's value in what they're saying. I've seen this before. Democrats, they have a push, right? Like a late push, and they'll beef those numbers up. I'm telling you, they will. All right. And as far as like, there's 20% new voters in Arizona, folks, that doesn't mean, or in Texas too. I saw that yesterday. That doesn't mean that they're right. First of all, that's just the early voting.
they won't remain 20% as time goes on. All right. Things don't happen consistently like that. And then new voters tend not to vote as heavy on election day. They vote in early votes and absentees most of the time. All right. So they're getting their best foot forward. So if it's 20, 25%, when the rest of the electorate comes in and votes, it's going to fall as a share of the electorate. And as I said before, in Arizona, Maricopa County went from R4 to R5 again because of movers, not because of native Arizonians. All right. So everything is not always what it seems. Arizona is more purple now because Republicans like John McCain and George Bush let illegal immigrants flood the state and California for years. They had babies, and now those babies are eligible to vote, and they are naturalized, also eligible to vote. That is why Arizona is competitive. I mean, it is what it is. Did I get that enough, you think?
I think so.
I mean, I'm telling you, just watch for it to get more Democrat. That's number one, because history tends to do that, but history tends to show that they do that. And number two, because of our polling data just clearly shows there are more Democrats who are going to vote by absentee ballot and early vote.
All right. So we have Mike S. What does Rich make of Michigan early vote being 50-50 Democrat Republican so far?
So totally stunned. Honestly, totally stunned. But give it time. They have a lot more voters to draw from, right? So I'll tell you who's going to be key there. They're older white Democrats and older white independents. They have a ancestral Democrat bond, and they didn't tell us who they were going to vote for until the final couple of days. No joke. People who were early voting in that state in 2016, they were generally decided people already. They were the stubborn ones, and they shifted our polling in 2016. Let me go back and look. It was Clinton plus 5 on October 24th. All right. And then they shifted a little bit by November 2nd, and it was Clinton plus 2. They were breaking very heavy for Donald Trump, and that was 47-45. Then when the last group decided, that's when we got to Trump plus 1, 48-47. And in fact, give me 1 second. I'll give you the exact tens of percentage points. Oh, no, that was one of the three that were actually right on the whole number money. 48.1 to 47.2 or something. So very close. But that group was a persuadable group. And they are Democrats, but they don't like corporate Democrats. They liked Obama because they thought he was like looking out for the working class, looking out for seniors, because they were older, 45 and above. And they didn't particularly like Hillary Clinton at all. And that's one thing Biden has going for him there. He's a little bit more he's more well liked than Hillary Clinton was, although he's not super popular. And let me see, do I have that handy? How popular he was in our Rust Belt poll in Michigan? I can actually get that for you. Give me 2 seconds and I will get that. But more popular than Hillary Clinton, even though not super popular. And in the end, they still remember the auto stuff. There's that connection, right? So it really could be a lot different. Than 2016. Let me get that number, actually. I'm curious. All right. Because I remember saying, you know what? Biden's not as popular as I thought he was going to be in Michigan. You know?
You were actually surprised.
Yeah, surprised. I thought he would be more popular. I did. All right. So Democrats have a big lead did have a big lead on the generic ballot in Michigan, though. They did. All right. Man, though, Trump killed him on the economy. Of those who said the economy and jobs were their top issue in Michigan, Trump took 62.5% to 34.1% for Biden. Biden took 75% of people who said healthcare was the top issue, 78.7% who said coronavirus was the top issue. Trump took 55% who said policing and crime was their top issue, and immigration
Trump took 71.4% of those who said immigration was their top issue. The top issues in Michigan were as follows: economy and jobs, coronavirus, healthcare, policing, and crime. All right. And that's why it's no good for Trump to keep losing that much with coronavirus, because between healthcare and coronavirus, it's enough to put together a coalition. So even though Biden's not winning, what's the word? He's not winning the top issue, the issue that's most important to people. It does matter that they view it, so overwhelmingly on the second and third. All right, where on earth is it? I could have swore. Isn't this the one we did ask about favorability? Here's the trade questions. Here it is. All right, so Biden was 41.3%, and Donald Trump was 37.8%, which tends to be, honestly, that was a little low. I remember thinking to myself, too, that's low for both. In 2016, Trump's favorability in Michigan was higher. It was in the final poll. He tended to be more liked in the Rust Belt. All right, aside from Florida, which liked him too. They like him more now. So Donald Trump's favorability in Michigan was 42%. His unfavorable was am I reading this correctly? Oh no, that's Michigan's the last one. Favorable Trump 42. Hillary Clinton was only 37. Unfavorable still 52, but Hillary Clinton was 56. So very unfavorable. All right. We can move on to the next one, but what was it? Something I wanted to just bring up. Missing something here.
You.
I know. Oh no, I just completely lost it.
It's not meant to be.
Is it not meant to be? Is it? I could have sworn it was important too. Damn it. It was something I wanted to say. Anyway, watch that group. That's the group that matters. So I was a little bit stunned, but Democrats have a bigger pool to draw from, and we'll just have to see how it goes.
All right, so I got a message from Astroswamy. He is an Australian astronomer. He asked in the message, I've been looking at the voter by mail return rates in Michigan and Wisconsin. They claim a lead the Dems should have just isn't there. Interested in your view on that. Also would like to hear what you think about Loomer in Florida and Klasick in Maryland. He said that the poll suggests that there's a 14% undecided with Klasick and thinks that means that they're in the hunt.
I applaud. Let me go backward here. I applaud Kim Klasick and even to some extent Laura Loomer for making the run they are in those kinds of districts. But in the end, those are heavily Democratic districts. I'm not saying things can't change, because they can and do. That's politics. But it doesn't happen in a night or an election season. So it takes time. And Kim should be playing the long game. All right? Because she's a rock star. She's a rock star. I mean, she really is. Could there be an upset? Sure, anything could happen. It's a very Democratic district, folks. And it's just difficult, to win something like that. And then as far as Loomer goes, she is similarly in a not as heavy of a Democratic district, but pretty heavy. In the end, in districts like that, those undecideds either don't vote or come home. That's typically the case. Now, can some fracture off? Sure. But to shift a geography and an ethnic group really takes time and work. Lots of time and lots of work. The change in the Hispanic vote for Donald Trump, which I think it's now at this point, like in a state like Florida, I think it's all but certain he's going to do a lot better. That is something that he really put a lot of effort into. I mean, he probably would have done better too. He would be doing better if it wasn't for all the fake news painting him as a racist. But he really had a lot of people on the ground trying to make that happen. All right. And then what was the first? Oh, yeah. And then as far as the Wisconsin and Michigan, I'm right there with you. I mean, like I said, though, it's possible that it will get more Democratic. It is the way it has been in the past, and we have all the polling data to show that Democrats are much more likely to vote this way this year. But maybe it doesn't. Who knows? At this point, no, they don't have the electorate that the polls are forecasting and really at this point counting on them to have. They don't. It's not there. So they got some time to make up that ground. They have about a month, a little less than a month. But right now, it's not. And this is what I was trying to warn everybody about. Polling can blow up in your face, guys, if you're wrong about what the electorate is going to look like. It can completely blow up. And that is what, you're a pollster, totally different result. You're sitting on election day, like looking at what you found, trying to find what you did wrong. What the hell happened? It is almost 9 out of 10 times that, you're generally right about how certain groups would vote. Maybe you're a little off here, a little off there, but that's all it takes if you didn't get the electorate right. Couple of points either way blows a big damn hole in your whole result. All right. Look at Virginia, Laura, in 2014. One of Mark Warner's polling leads was 22 points or something. It was ridiculous, or 18 or something, huge lead. And Ed Gillespie came that close to upsetting him. What was it? It wasn't necessarily that the polls, because it was routinely Warner +6, Warner +7. You know what? Just to prove my point, I'm going to look this up. 2014 Virginia Senate polls. All right. I'll go to another one because Real Clear Politics picks and chooses which ones. All right. Washington Free Beacon. Mark Warner, 51. Ed Gillespie, 33. That was unbelievably huge margin. At the end, PPP, their final poll, Warner +9, 49-40. Christopher Newport University, Mark Warner, 51. Ed Gillespie, 44. Vox Populi was the closest, 4 points. That was it. University of Mary Washington. Oh, you remember, Laura. 50-30, a 20-point lead. I knew it. I told you. There were some real whoppers. All right. Of course, that really came down to turnout. They were off with the groups and how they intended to vote, but it wasn't horrible. What they got wrong was which group was going to show up at what percentage, what rates each group was going to vote at, where the votes were going to come from geography-wise. And like good old Bob Beckel said, truth is Ed Gillespie probably beat Mark Warner. I hate to tell everybody, he probably did, but Fairfax County wrote in a couple ballots stuffed here, a couple ballots stuffed there, and that's it. It doesn't take a lot to erase a 3,000 vote margin. I mean, it was close, guys. And then over time, it widened out to about 18,000 or 17,000 votes, But, it's possible. I mean, it's definitely possible. But they got that wrong because they got wrong the electorate. And that makes all the difference. I'm telling you, all the difference in the world.
You caught me in the middle of copying. Sorry. All right. Doreen Dixon wants to know, did you see the Gallup poll out yesterday where 56% of people say they are better off than they were 4 years ago? It was the highest percent record in the history of the poll.
Doreen! I love you. I forgot to bring that up. Hold on. Let's bring it up, shall we? Is this it? Is this the one right here? Yep. Okay. Let me pull it up for Doreen. I had it ready. I wanted to talk about this, and I did not. I forgot. I failed. All right. Bang. All right. For those who don't know what Doreen's talking about, RJ Reinhardt wrote a blog post yesterday, Gallup's election 2020 coverage. As you guys know, and I told this yesterday on an appearance on Tennessee media, Gallup was the gold standard for decades. Gallup quit the horse race because they got 2012 wrong, R+1, or Romney +1. The Obama administration literally threatened action against them for not having the white percentage of the electorate at 66%. If you guys don't remember, Obama was never shy about threatening to pull the levers of government and using government power to hurt people, private people, public people, whatever. And a little unknown story that people don't talk about often, and they should, is how Obama threatened Gallup with, I'm talking about legal action. Like he was going to sick Eric Holder on them and the Civil Rights Division and crap. I'm not joking. Like, I don't know what he was, I don't know which, I guess that would be who we would get, but he was seriously contemplating suing Gallup and using, so anyway, they caved. They were wrong, but they weren't that wrong, but they caved. And they used a traditional likely voter model. Barnes and I have talked about this quite a bit. It was justifiable what they did. What they messed up on, however, was they bought into, and this is going to sound very familiar to you, they bought into the argument that the electorate would be much bigger than the Obama campaign was projecting. The Obama campaign did not believe that the electorate would resemble the one that elected him, that there would be missing voters, and that those voters would be voters that Mitt Romney needed, and that the most energetic voters that would show up were black voters particularly. And if you guys do remember this, Republicans' arguments were black voters are just not going to show up for Obama at the rates they showed up for him in 2008. The magic's not there. And it sounds familiar, doesn't it? But in truth, that's not what history told us. History told us that incumbent presidents often get, unless they're losers, but even losers, Herbert Walker Bush lost, but still the Republican base came out in a sizable number. He just lost too damn many of them to Ross Perot. All right. But Democrats were right and Republicans were wrong. In the end, history proved itself true again, and the base of the party came out to defend their president. Like I've told you, we are going to see that this time. We have never seen primary participation for an incumbent president as high as we have seen it this year. And that is a clear indicator that the base is going to defend their president. Laura and I saw firsthand in 2018, Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott, both friends and loyal to the president, made it an issue against conventional wisdom, made it a point to travel to the state, to travel around to Republican groups and tell them we are the most loyal people running to President Trump in an election where it was bad to be tied to President Trump. But they got their electorate. And on election day, they booted that electorate to R+5 by some estimates. And it was able to overturn a shift against them among independent voters. All right. Now, Gallup quit the horse race, but they still do their election coverage. And that should tell you everything you know. They quit the horse race because they said response rates are too low to accurately predict it. And when the gold standard quits, that should tell you something. But getting back to what they do still, they do who do you think is going to win, which was pretty much dominant for Donald Trump. And then this new one, which came out yesterday, which views on the candidates' qualities. The only thing Biden, and this is why he's appealing, like I told you, we're calling it the decency argument. Please tell me whether you agree or disagree that Donald Trump and Joe Biden has the personality and leadership qualities a president should have. Please tell me whether you agree or disagree with Donald Trump or Joe Biden on the issues that matter most to you. All right. Trump got 44% who had leadership or presidential qualities. And then he beat Joe Biden on issues. This was most shocking to me. For those who don't know, Reagan, he was in trouble in 84. And he pulled himself together by simply asking the American people, when you go to vote, I want you just to consider one question. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? That's where this came from. Okay. So pollsters ever since have been asking this, and 56%, even with COVID, 56% of registered voters, not likely voters, registered voters, said they are better off now than they were 4 years ago. 32% said they were worse off. That's it. By the way, we asked that question too. It's in our Pennsylvania poll right now. We have a little bit of spin on it. I'm better off than I was 4 years ago. And then we have, I was better off than I was 4 years ago before the pandemic. I am not better off than I was 4 years ago, and about the same. And shockingly, in everywhere we've asked so far, I am better off than I was 4 years ago has won out, though we give that other option. And that may be the difference between what Gallup found 56, a clear majority, because we're like more at a plurality of 40-something%. I'm better, right? But when you add those people who say, I was better off until the pandemic, then it looks more like Gallup, 56, 60%. So this came out yesterday, and immediately somebody I talked to on the regular about polling, he's always asking questions and giving me his take in Michigan. Immediately, it was like, how the hell could this be possible? And then Joe Biden be ahead by 15 points nationally. I mean, folks, there you have it. And I would refer you to the fact, like I said, you want to know how hard this is and how many opportunities there can be to screw up polling bigly. All right. The gold standard is that now out of the horse race business. And that is why I always say, and you'll hear me say a lot, there are too many polls and not enough pollsters. All right. We just don't have enough people with respectable track records. Forget Gallup's track record, which was with the exception of Truman and Dewey and 2012. They had some, but they generally get a fantastic track record up until now, which is why they no longer poll horse racing, because the response rates are too low. Doing it the way traditionally they have done it, live caller interviews. The response rates are too low for them to feel confident in releasing the results. That should tell you everything. All right? Everything about how much this industry needs to evolve.
Doreen says, love you too, and happy birthday. 2 Point Ohio 14. He said, Pennsylvania poll not looking bad for top. That's why, wants to know, is that why Biden is running to Philly for a town hall instead of Miami?
Yeah, okay, so listen, the Suffolk poll too had it tied. There's no doubt in the remaining undecided voters in the Suffolk poll, they found, just like we did, that those were the undecided vote in Florida was very favorable to Donald Trump. So I have no doubt that they are not finding the Quinnipiac garbage, when they're polling Florida. They know, because they're probably being a lot more realistic, like presidential campaigns tend to be, in my experience. All right. If they were to box him out of Florida, that's why they've made some visits there. If they were to box him out, it's over. If Trump loses Florida, it's over. Not because he can't carry others. He could have lost Florida in 2016 and still won. But I would submit to you that he would not have carried those other states if he lost Florida. You understand what I'm saying? So Florida would tell us more. It's a microcosm. It would tell us more about how some other areas go. If he carries Florida, the Joe Biden campaign knows Georgia and North Carolina are off the board. Off the board. He's going to carry North Carolina by at least 3 points. He's going to carry Georgia. That's it. The Sun Belt's done. So that leaves him with the choice. Do we try to pluck off Arizona, which if he carries Florida, he's probably going to carry Arizona. All right. It's just similar demographically. And if he carries them, then that's it. He looks strong in Florida. So where are we going to stop it? I'm telling you, folks, it's all on Pennsylvania at that point. Unless he wins Minnesota and New Hampshire and combines the two, he really can't. He's Biden. If I was the Biden campaign, I would be doing nothing but going Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Minnesota. Laura tells me to shut. Why? Because I'm not an idiot, and hopefully, and I know that Florida is still not. It's hard. If this was a candidate other than Donald Trump, then Florida would be in play. I really believe it would be. All right. Barack Obama carried Florida twice. All right. Even though he's really one of the only Democratic candidates in a long time to do so. Bill Clinton did, but he struggled a couple of times. But anyway, he really relied. Bill Clinton never got a majority. He really relied on third-party spoilers. So really, I would think that they're smart enough to understand that Donald Trump is a particularly strong Republican candidate in the state of Florida. His favorability is solid. His approval rating is 50.5 in our poll. Good luck with that. All right. It's good luck. All right. Now it's possible, but this election would need to turn real south really fast for Donald Trump to lose Florida. All right. So right now, Biden is doing what is smart. Now, if I was Donald Trump, I already told you what I would be doing. I mean, he's just there. They haven't been doing what I would do. They did not run this campaign the way I would have told them to run this campaign. They had Brad Parscale, which, we'll pray for him and God bless him. They had him chasing unicorns for years and wasted time. Wasted a lot of time, wasted no doubt a lot of money. That now, because I remember saying, look at how much they wasted in New Mexico. And people were like, that's crap. He only spent this much money in New Mexico. Well, he could use that money now, can't he? Right? Because he's pulling ads everywhere because they don't have the money. Why don't they have the money? Because their donor base got crushed by a shutdown that they forced him to impose, or they tricked him into imposing. So that's where we're at. So he has to win. I'm telling you, he has to win Pennsylvania. He has to. Now, I just don't. Why? Because I'm not really. Minnesota has been more Republican in some cycles, that definitely more than Michigan and more cycles than not recently. But Pennsylvania is a little bit closer to Ohio for a long time. Before Ohio, 4 points versus 3 points in 2012. It was really Trump who changed the map and fractured off voting histories, like Iowa voting to the right of Ohio. Iowa always votes to the left of Ohio, regardless of who wins. That was a new development. But in the end, I think this is going to come down to the Rust Belt, and he's got to pluck off something somewhere. He's got to get either Pennsylvania and hold Arizona, or he's got to get Wisconsin, Minnesota and New Hampshire or something. Yeah, it's really those. I'm just saying his best bets.
He may take.
New Hampshire polling is going to be bad. I'll tell you right now, it's going to be bad. We polled it. It was the one state where we overestimated and got it wrong. We overestimated Trump and got wrong. With no other state did we do that. It was Trump +1 in our final in New Hampshire. Really thought that in the end, he was not leading there the whole time. He was struggling in New Hampshire. Clinton +3, Clinton +2, October 29th, Clinton +1. Then at the very end, November 3rd, we had Trump +1. All right. And there was still a lot of undecided votes. So we thought we had it, though, that he had a late surge. I have former senator. Well, I'm not going to blow anybody up, but there are people who still will tell me I was right and that got robbed from him. They swear it, that no, you pulled that damn state right. It got robbed. I don't know. I don't believe that. I think, likely maybe I was just wrong, but in any event, the polls were horrible. When we dropped our Clinton +1, there was a Clinton +8 or 9. Mm-hmm. And then we dropped our last one, which was Trump +1. And an hour later, UNH released Clinton +12. And I was like going into election day, like, oh my God, could I be this wrong? Because you will doubt yourself, you will. And I just felt like I wasn't. And lo and behold, there you have it. So the polls in New Hampshire are going to be abysmal. At Siena College, Biden +3, that's a good poll for Donald Trump compared to what we saw last time. All right. There were a couple that, like us, had a Trump +1, but they weren't media loved polls. They were all outcasts like us. So anyway, that's the point. That's why you see him running like that. Biden's got to try to stop him in Pennsylvania. Oops, killed your mic.
Oh, good job. All right. Just so you guys know, it was quite entertaining watching Rich during the election. If you ever wanted to see what a true case of being neurotic is, it was that day. He was crying, laughing, happy. joyous, jumping for joy, crying, not sure if it's right. Is he wrong? Oh my God, is this going to happen? That was Rich that day. That's because when everybody has different numbers and you're the only person with that set of data, it makes you nervous. But on to Ryan Evans' question. What does it mean to you guys that Trump pulled ads from Minnesota, Pelosi bringing up the 25th Amendment? Does that mean Trump is doing a lot better in the polls?
So first and foremost, it's noon, and if you want me to get polling done, I guess we'll have to wrap this here. I'll answer this one. But thanks, Laura, for that. I am very type A kind of guy, but it was overwhelming that day. It was, and I was like, she's talking. I was crying. I was laughing and crying at the same time when I realized I was right. I was when it dawned on me, and Wisconsin was like, I'm looking at it, and we have our own modeling, and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to carry Wisconsin by about a point. I was like, oh my God, he's going to carry it by about a point. And then we didn't think it was over yet. And we were listening to different outlets. And Megyn Kelly, I think it was like, Wisconsin, we got a projection. It's a big projection. Wisconsin's going to Donald Trump. I was just like, I'm right. I was like, holy crap. They can all kiss my, yeah. So with the money, I hear, both sides of the argument. Well, maybe he just thinks he's doing it. I think when it comes to Iowa, Ohio, I think they do think that he wrapped that up. I do. And as far as the rest of the states go, there's no doubt, guys, he's got money issues. All right. And not bad, but Donald Trump is the kind of guy where he abandoned Wisconsin. That's part of the reason why I started to get into that whole story. He abandoned Wisconsin for weeks. Nothing. No ads, no stops, nothing. So he really thought, by the way, New Hampshire is number 3. So if we're going to poll after Arizona, it's New Hampshire. Yeah. So the bottom line is, that's the way it was, in 2016. But this uniquely hurt him. Yeah. So I guess the Joker went back and looked. It's still better for Clinton in the battleground average than it is for Biden now. So Clinton 5.1. That's roughly the same as what it was yesterday. Joker, when I looked, it's Clinton at a 5.1 battleground tracker average, and Biden has a 4.5. So actually, Biden is lagging Clinton's polling lead. It's the national polls that really look ugly, which is how you know Nate Silver is a liar. Because he says the state polls are what really moves his model, not the national polls. So then why does Joe Biden have a 3% better, or why does Donald Trump have a 3% less chance now to win the election than he did against Hillary Clinton? The answer is because Nate Silver is a freaking poll reader. He is not a modeler. He is not an authority on polling. He is a fraud and a liar. And you just busted him right there, Joker. Is a perfect example. All right. There are no other indicators that he's an incumbent president. What else goes in his model? Incumbency is a big freaking deal. He's an incumbent president with a forecasted 35% gain in gross domestic product for the third quarter. He's a fraud. A fraud. Anyway. I mean, getting back to it, there's no doubt that they hurt Trump's fundraising and his spending. Oh, crap. Trump is on Rush in 2 minutes.
Dude, I know,
and I wanted to hear that. All right. So I will wrap this up real quick. But that's it. I mean, he does have spending issues. And Trump is the kind of guy. Let me just say this real quick. Trump is the kind of guy. He will not run to big money like Joe Biden. He won't do it. He won't. He'd rather lose than be beholden to these people. And I think that should tell you a lot. I mean, I actually still have the chart here, guys. Big money is going to Democrats and has since the Trump era started. They gave more money to congressional Republicans in 2012, but they gave overwhelmingly 3-1 to Hillary Clinton. That is now expanded 5-1. Wall Street is backing Joe Biden. Donald Trump knows plenty of people he could go get some money from. He's not going to do it. That is not who he is. It's not what he's about. All right. So that's it. I'm going to wrap this up here. Well, if everybody wants to get to it, which I know they do, then we got to go. But listen, I got both in the YouTube description, venmo.com/People's Pundit.
if you want to contribute through Venmo to the Public Polling Project, paypal.me/People's Pundit. I think we're about $1,500 away from Arizona because put like 1,000 from Pennsylvania towards Arizona because it was overfunded. I woke up and it was like $1,000 too much. I was like, oh crap, moving it to Arizona. Next date. All right. So as usual, guys, have a safe and happy weekend. Don't forget to join me tomorrow on the Don Smith Show at 12:35 or 12 noon Eastern Standard Time is when it starts. I'll tweet that out, of course, as well as other appearances. Like the page on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. Best way to support the show, of course, is to subscribe to People's Pundit Daily, which you can do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. I got to go see this while I work because this is going to be historic. And thank you for everyone who has contributed. Thank you for your birthday wishes. I love you guys back. And again, as usual, just to let you know, I'm touched about the trust that you put in me. All right. And I will do the best I can. That's all I can promise you. All right. So have a safe and happy weekend, folks. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'll see you. Follow the Twitter. We'll find out what's going on Monday.
Maybe Tuesday.
Yeah. All right. All the best.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me.